Welcome to the Pasho Perspective, a place where I share my perspective on everything in the space between life and death. I'm your host, Pasho. Well, my Pachos Chachos, another week has come, another time for another wonderful podcast. Today, I have for you, No Quarter. This is in response to an article released, I believe, in the New York Times that was asking for forgiveness during the times of COVID, all under the pretense of, we just didn't know. And so here are some things that I think you libs can go and suck a duck and choke on it, because no, I'm not going to forgive you. And no, there will be no quarter. You best believe when the red tsunami comes, you all will be investigated, and you all, hopefully, will be punished. So let's start. The masks. I have known since the very beginning that masks were nothing but a bunch of bull crap. It has never done anything. They used to let us get away with gaiters, and what are those? Thin dress socks that are wide enough that you can wrap around your face. Then they went to N95 because, yeah, sure, everybody has those. And yeah, sure, everybody knows how to wear it and to not touch it, especially little children like I've had to deal with in my home, high school students at my school. They're all so great at keeping their hands off of it, let me tell you. They never adjust it. They never remove it to speak more clearly so a teacher can actually hear what the hell it is they're talking about. They don't ever touch it so that they can put food or drink in their mouth, right? What a wonderful, stupid idea the Democrats came up with in making us all mask up. And how convenient it was for Antifa and for BLM during the riots to be able to go to cities and burn them down with complete anonymity, because who could identify them? Unless they are directly arrested by the police, they get away scot-free. And even if they did get arrested by the police, didn't our Vice President Kamala Harris and a bunch of other scumbags set up a GoFundMe page to bail those a-holes out who destroyed our country, who were hurting other Americans, and who were dividing us up with their aggressive rhetoric? No. When it comes to masks, I don't forgive you. I still have to go into my classroom and I still have to look at a bunch of brainwashed students who, because of you Democrats, they are so afraid to breathe fresh air. They are so insecure to show their face. You have set back our country so many decades, academically, socially, and I would imagine spiritually as well. The next point. Vaccines. I have known from the very beginning that vaccines were trash. And of course they were trash. It was a 99.7% survival rate for anybody under the age of 65 who didn't have prior health concerns. What would you need a vaccine for something like that? And I think it's also amazing how the flu just all of a sudden disappeared when COVID came. Or is it that maybe we coded everybody with the flu as if they had COVID because the federal government under Biden's administration financially incentivized hospitals to lie about the amount of inpatients they have with COVID so that they could receive more federal funding? But no, of course, hospitals and board directors of hospitals who seeking profit would never, ever do anything like that to us, right? So you give us 2 shots that were never even tested to see if they stop the transmission of the virus. Remember, libs, you told me I was killing grandma. You told me I was killing my neighbor if I didn't get a vaccine. I almost died after the first vaccine that I took. I literally thought my children were going to witness their father's death while I was sitting in the guest bedroom of my parents' house. That's how serious it was. And now you have 4,000-5,000 boosters. I think that reveals how effective those vaccines were, right? We don't have any boosters for tetanus. We don't have any boosters for measles. We don't have any boosters for chickenpox because those vaccines actually worked. And I'm pretty sure they were actually tested on humans to make sure that they worked before they were passed out But no, libs, because you're so smart and follow the science, you had to go at the speed of science and use us all as guinea pigs. And now boys between the age of 18 and 35 are getting heart diseases, strokes, blood clots, myocarditis, pericarditis, and other diseases. Yeah, no thank you. You were absolutely wrong. And then on top of it, you forced us to take it. We can't keep our jobs if we take it. We can't see our grandparents if we don't take it. We can't move out of the state if we don't take it. We can't get on a plane if we don't take it. It was complete absurdity. And up until the end, those a-hole dictates from the airline companies mandating that we wear masks and be vaccinated and everything so that we can move is absurd and unconstitutional. And I don't understand how we allowed this Biden administration to get away with all this stuff. When the red tsunami comes, you better get ready. You better get ready because we're doing investigations and we're going to start holding people accountable. This was unacceptable. It was unnecessary, and it was a direct attack on our Constitution, going well beyond the orders, the executive orders that these branches were given. Then we had the lockdowns. I mean, I don't even know how many mom and pop restaurants went out of business just here in Florida where I live, but there were more than I'd care to talk about. Some of my favorite places are no longer around because they couldn't afford to put up plexiglass. They couldn't afford to put arrows on the ground to tell us which direction to move in because, yeah, libs, you were so smart. You thought if we all walked in a clockwise direction that the virus would never be able to transfer one person or another because we're all walking to the left. What an idiotic idea. And I do not forgive you for how you allowed BLM and Antifa during the supposed summer of love to destroy our country, to hurt police officers, to violently attack conservatives. I'll never forgive you for that. You can talk about January 6th all you want, but I know the truth. The real insurrection came from those summer riots. Nobody tried to take over the government. Nobody tried to replace our government with a new government, as is an insurrection by definition. You know what? You want a good example of an insurrection? Look at what Joe Biden did to Afghanistan. And again, I don't forgive you for that. $80 billion worth of ammunition, technology, aircraft, ballistic armor, night vision goggles. You just gave a bunch of illiterate, hashish-smoking a-holes $80 billion worth of weapons to cause a problem in the Middle East to our allies. Not the greatest thing in the world. And then the lives that were cost because of the suicide bombers and the ridiculous abandonment of the city. Who does that? That was the worst thing we could have done. And obviously, Putin, seeing how weak and pathetic the president is, decided that, yeah, he was going to make an invasion on Ukraine. And didn't President Biden say that if Russia only had a little incursion into Ukraine, that it would be okay? So nice job, President Biden. Way to invite Putin to attack Ukraine. Like your prior boss, President Oflama, did the same thing, giving up Georgia or Crimea. You know what I'm talking about. Let's talk about the Kavanaugh debacle and the whole Me Too movement, which I'm glad because Harvey Weinstein is in jail and hopefully he will rot there for the rest of his life like the disgusting scumbag that he is, which unfortunately he should be rotting next to Jeffrey Epstein, but you know how that goes. He didn't commit suicide. Don't cross the Clintons. That's all I can tell you. Inflation is awful. Your disgusting spending, giving people who never had money so much money to irresponsibly go out and just waste it. You think poor people, when they get money, they save it? No, they've never had money. They go out and they spend. And so, way to put all that money into our economy. Way to screw us all. And you're going to pretend that it's all paid for? You mean our future taxes are going to pay for this asinine policy that you created? this supposed Inflation Reduction Act, which has done nothing but increase inflation and gas prices and consumer prices overall. The most expensive Halloween I've ever had. I paid $35 for the first time to have a big bag of candy. $35. I think last year, or certainly under Trump, it was less than $20. Guarantee you that. But so thank you. But no thank you. I do not accept your apology. I do not extend my olive branch. I do not forgive you. And the last thing I want to talk about. So all this time, while we're dealing with inflation, while we're dealing with the division between races and social groups because of your awesome administration that went under the guise that you were going to unite the country, and you have the audacity that while we all have our guard down just trying to play catch up because of the 2 years lost, you're going to try and trans our kids. You want to mutilate our children's bodies. And for what? So that other characters like Harvey Weinstein, that disgusting rapist, pedophile piece of crap, can take advantage of my children? I don't think so. Our boys will keep their penises. Our girls will keep their healthy breasts. There is no reason to try and convince our children that they are anything else than what they are. We need to teach them to love themselves, not to love some idea that they could possibly be somebody else, because it's not true. And you know it's not true. And I know that you know it's not true. And that is maybe the main reason why I am never going to forgive anything that you have done over these last 2 years. I couldn't have imagined Joe Biden doing a worse job than he is right now. He is the most pathetic, disgusting, demented president we have ever had in our history. And that's saying something, because Obama and Clinton were presidents of this country as well. But I stand by what I say. Your son and his laptop will be your undoing. And when we find out how corrupt and disgusting and perverted your family is, and I don't think it's just your crackhead, prostitute, pissing on son, it's also you, pedo Tom, or whatever your stupid name is. It's you, big guy. We will not forgive you. And how dare you, New York Times, that you once used to be a journalistic magazine or newspaper, and now you're just a pundit to the left. You're just one of those, what did they call it? Useful idiots helping these perverts into power. So no, I'm sorry. You're trying to kill my God. You're trying to transition my children. You're trying to bankrupt my country. You're trying to empower our enemies. You're trying to let the worst kinds of people walk around and burn down our cities. You locked us down like tyrants. You forced us like guinea pigs to take chemicals that were never tested on human beings to see if they were even effective, all in the name of the speed of science. And you took away our identities. You took away our faces and our smiles. You took away everything that makes us human, everything that connects us. So I hope after you have heard this that you can understand that we conservatives, we Republicans, maybe even many liberals are never going to forgive you. We're never going to forget what has happened and what you have done, because we have so much now that we have to make up for. Our SAT, ACT scores are the worst they've ever been. For children of color, things have only gotten worse. And so I have to work now twice as hard to get these kids motivated about education. And I've got to work twice as hard to actually get it in there, because they are so used to being lazy and off. And all they care about is what gender they associate with. And all they care about is who they're going to hump in the future, which is so disgusting and repulsive. Children, even in high school, shouldn't be thinking about these things. They should be working on themselves, growing themselves, evolving as human beings so they can become mature, civil adults that can guide this country back to the right path. No one is going to forget what you have done. And I certainly don't forgive you. So thank you very much, guys, for listening to my podcast. I hope that you understand where I'm coming from. And as I believe many of you probably agree wholeheartedly with everything that I've said. Please don't forget next week, guys, it is voting day. If you have not voted already, please, please, please go out and vote. I don't want to just read about a red wave. I want a red tsunami. All right. I want so much red. The blue has no choice but to change back to a less left-leaning party. Come back, Democrats. Come back to the centrifuge where we can have conversations and discussions and arguments that will better all of our lives. Because where you have gone down the slippery slope spectrum of liberalism, I can't follow you. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.